What's up, Cougar Nation, and welcome again aboard the Hype Train podcast. I'm your host, Joe Wheat. That's at Joey27 on Twitter. As always, my boy Jackson Payne today, two-time Hype Train Guest of the Year Award winner. We are presented by Wilner O'Reilly Immigration Law. Jackson, do you think if you had, assuming you have eligibility, because I think you're, class of 21?
For high school?
Yeah.
I'm class of 2018. I'm old.
2018? Wait, I thought, oh gosh, I forgot. Tanner Wall was like ultra super senior mission kid. Assuming you still have eligibility, though, do you think you could start for the LSU Tigers this year?
Dude, if they need someone to run the pick and roll, I can pick up their laundry and roll it down to the arena before the game. I mean, I'll be there. They need me. They need me badly.
I just love that Lane Kiffin and Will Wade are both so absolutely attention starved that they're sitting here like Texas Tech can't be getting all this attention. Like Texas Tech cannot be the villain of the offseason. We got to make it happen. And then Kim Mulkey is like, I don't care if BYU has tensions with Russia. I'm signing a player from there.
And my beloved Jaden Daniels is like flipping over tables and cracking the whip over the number 5. Like,
okay, so
look, I know there's been a lot of drama around BYU lately, but just count your lucky stars. You could be LSU. Granted, you'd probably get a lot more respect nationally because it's the SEC and it's LSU, but you know, it's the meme with 0 days since our last nonsense. That's every day at LSU is nonsense.
It's like, to your point, this has got to be crazier than what BYU is going through this offseason, right? At least to some extent.
I just think the BYU thing, without diving too deep, obviously, because that's a whole other subject, the BYU thing on its own is the craziest of all of the things, I would say. But LSU has just so much crazy that the sheer volume of crazy outweighs the severity of BYU's crazy, I would say. And also just I feel like Texas Tech is like almost a caricature of like college football tycoon, you know, like just the money getting thrown around and the just embracing that villain arc. And then LSU takes that Texas Tech attitude and goes times 50. Like they are Texas Tech on steroids when it comes to shenanigans. And so look, college football is great because college athletics is great because of what happens on the field, but the stuff off the field is just as fun. And especially when it's just as, it's August. We need football. We need football so bad because we can't keep talking about all this courtroom stuff and booster stuff. It's driving me crazy.
It really is the greatest sport in the world, isn't it? Like the chaos is part of the charm. Like all this stuff about, the 5-and-5 rule, did the NCAA just deliberately sabotage this 5-for-5 rollout just so that they could win a court case in Congress? Maybe, probably. But that's part of the charm. That's part of what we do here. It's part of why we've dedicated our life to the sport. It is so unbelievably unserious that it's the perfect escape from your everyday life.
The problem is my everyday life is this, Joe. I have to get paid to dive into all this nonsense. I was on the phone with a lawyer for half an hour yesterday talking about Jackson Kohler's eligibility, and I was going to have a stroke by the end of it. There was just so much legal jargon that I'll never, ever understand. But you know what?
Okay,
it's a dream come true.
Well, we have you. So Hype Train exclusive. What's going on with the Jackson Kohler situation?
Well, if it's just a matter of the 5th year, that's going to be totally fine because they filed the lawsuit in California. California is very pro-individual on these things. They very rarely side with institutions. So, and also there was a hearing today regarding that case, and it got pushed back to September 29th. That's not really a good sign for the NCAA. So we know that Jackson Kohler is going to be eligible at least until September 29. But with all the legal people I've talked to and just everything else I've heard, he's going to get his 5th year. Now, will he be able to use it? Because obviously the Big Ten and the ACC keep having these eligibility crackdowns, I guess is the correct term, about pro players. However, Jackson Kohler's dad, Jeff, who everyone on BYU Twitter is following already because he was pretty involved, it looks like, with Michigan State Twitter during Jackson's 4 years there. And if this is going to be a really fun season, I want Jeff along for the ride. I want him to interact with everyone. But Jeff said Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, who doesn't want to be Jeff? Like that is my absolute dream in life, is to be Jeff. So hopefully I have a son, or or a daughter. That's fine too. Charlotte's gonna be an excellent basketball player someday. But
Yeah,
yes, that's my life's aspiration, is to be Jeff Kohler.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, obviously we talked about Tanner earlier. Like, Tanner's dad and like my dad, they grew up together. Like, we're all good. Like, Ryan's like my uncle, you know. And when Tanner started, you know, having success and being the guy, like, it was just really fun to see Ryan, you know, take his victory laps and kind of basket in. Like, it wasn't like a prideful thing. It was more like, I'm a proud dad, and that's like probably the most wholesome thing you can have on social media, is a dad proud of their son, or vice versa, or son proud of their father. But anyway, back to. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, do we need to bring up the greatest tweet of all time from him, talking about fork-tongued mouth to a local media member?
It was awesome. It was really fun. Ryan, I mean,
if you know, you know.
He likes to talk, but the words he does use become iconic after all these years.
It's so good. Anyway, sorry, back to Jackson Kohler.
So Jeff said Jackson never signed an Exhibit 10 deal. He merely agreed to it, which made him eligible to play Summer League. Now, if it's up to me, like, I'm biased here because I cover BYU. I would like to see Jackson Kohler play for BYU because he raises their ceiling substantially. But at the same time, like, let's not act like Summer League isn't just the powder league with NBA logos, right? Like, it's essentially a tryout because you're trying out to either be in the rotation or be just in the organization at all. And so it's like, playing NBA basketball and being in the Summer League are not equal. That's my opinion. It's not going to stand in court, so don't even it's okay. But the fact that Jackson didn't sign the Exhibit 10 deal, I think, is going to help him with his eligibility. Like, they could say, if you've played in a Summer League game, we don't want you. That's going to be really hard to enforce and kind of crack the whip that way. But it sounds like, Mark Mitchell, is that the Kentucky center that they just got? Like, on his name. It sounds like he didn't sign his E10 either, and the Kentucky people are saying that he should be eligible with the SEC rules. So, it can't be overstated too. Like, we know the Big 12 is kind of, it's literally a different league. Like, that's their tagline. Like, they like to do things interestingly. Like, they'll have the concert at halftime of the title game, or they'll have the stupid glass floor in the conference tournament, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if the Big 12, when they come out with their own version of these rules, wants to zag when everyone else is zigging and be like, oh, if you played in the Summer League, you're good to go, you know? So I don't know how it's going to shake out. I still feel like he's going to be eligible. Just the fact that he didn't actually sign the Exhibit 10 bodes well for him, I would assume. So I think, gun to my head, I say Jackson Kohler starting at center for BYU this year.
Yeah, the important part, I feel like, is, I think it was Ross Dellinger clarified that those who did not sign an Exhibit 10 would be eligible. But those who didn't sign would not be. So the hope is that since Jackson did not sign the Exhibit 10, everything is going to be fine. I had no idea what an Exhibit 10 was until about 3 weeks ago. I knew what a temporary restraining order was, but I don't think I expected that to be the Webster's Dictionary Word of the Year this year. But here we are.
Hey, man, 2026. Wild time. Indiana won the national title in football. Like, this year was going to be from the start, and it has lived up to the billing.
So again, absolutely assuming that he is eligible, what does this do for your expectations for BYU basketball as the lead basketball writer for the Deseret News this year?
Thank you for using my
AP top 25 voter and official Deseret News BYU basketball pundit Jackson Payne. Your thoughts?
And soon to be 3-time Hype Train Guest of the Year. Don't forget the most important.
Heck yeah!
I think this was the big man that was going to raise BYU's ceiling the most. Like, we talked about how many guys BYU missed out on and just how dramatic the recruiting saga was to get a big man at BYU. But if you had told me at the beginning of the summer, like, Jackson Kohler's in this pool, and you had power ranked every center that BYU was going to go after, he was going to be number one. You know, he was a 4-year guy at a great Big Ten school, playing for one of the best coaches ever. He's a 20 and 10 type threat. He shoots threes. Just the fact that Kevin Young, who is the Mr. NBA offense, right? He's going to have a center that hits threes. He's never had that at BYU. So the spacing that BYU has, the stuff they're going to be able to draw up, the options for Rob Wright, the way that teams defend them, like it's just so advantageous for the Cougars this year. And so I think that this could not have been a better pickup for BYU. And like Jackson, it seems like a great kid too. He's from Utah County. Like he has skin in the game, knowing this is kind of his backyard school, and he's kind of getting one last ride, like this, like he knows like this is it. Like he came with all this fanfare. Like he's a big ticket type player. He was the answer to an off-season long amount of strife for BYU in regards to the center position. And so I just feel like all those things kind of just drum up a lot of excitement and anticipation. And I think he's going to live up to the hype. And like I said, like BYU was like probably a fringe top 25 team preseason before this. And now I think they're like firmly inside the top 15. Like I haven't looked in, I don't know what my preseason ballot's going to be, but pretty sure BYU is going to be somewhere in like the 13 to 15 range. So excited.
I was going to say, you don't know, you're voting in it.
I got time. I'm still in the gathering data process. I'm doing my own research, as Aaron Rodgers would say.
Yeah, it did have a little bit of like a Penn State coaching search vibe to it, where you had all of these swings and misses just to end up with the guy that you should have gotten in the first place. Like Matt Campbell was so perfect for that Penn State job that it kind of feels like they always knew they had Matt Campbell in the back pocket, so they just swung for absolutely everybody else that they could. And then at the end of the day, he was still there. But Jackson Kohler, I don't think he was all Big Ten, but averaging a double-double in the Big Ten. He was one of the best rebounders in the league. Like he fits everything that you want to do. And now you have, for the first time in the Kevin Young era, a big that can actually shoot from further than 3 feet.
Do you know who BYU's last player to average a double-double was?
Yoli?
It was not Yoli. So Kohler averaged 17, I think, and like 9 or 8 last year. So he was close to a double-double. I'm sure at BYU, like I'm not saying he's going to average a double-double. I'm just saying it's totally possible because that's kind of Blair he is. He's a back-to-the-basket guy. He's a great rebounder, but he can also hit threes, right? The last BYU player to average a double-double over an entire season was Rafael Arujo, more than 20 years ago. Yeah. That's not a real stat. That's not real. I asked chat, and chat told me. I'm just kidding. I did my own research. But yeah, Arujo's also the last BYU guy to average 10 rebounds in a season. So Kohler could be coming for that. I mean, like I know Wallin is a big dude, and Rob Wright. I mean, with the way that BYU spaces the floor, they're going to get a lot of offensive rebounds just because of how many threes they're going to jack up. But like, I really think we're on double-double watch for the season for Jackson Kohler. Just especially like they're going to need him to rebound because they don't have a ton of other rebounding. Like I don't really know how Colin Chandler's going to be as a rebounder compared to like Richie. Bruce Branch, he's like the tools are there. He's a little raw. Like I'm kind of in wait and see mode with Bruce Branch. I think he could be really good, but we still got to wait and see. But Jackson Kohler is the guy who could come in day one and be like 15 and 10, 18 and 9, 17 and 11. Like he's that guy who could just post like that every night. So
yeah,
let's dethrone Raffy. Let's get Kohler the next double guy for BYU.
The other thing is like he's so consistent. Like he is the guy that you know exactly what you're going to get from him every single night. Like he can be that steadying force. I think he's also that guy who can get you a bucket in the low post really anytime you need it. And I think that's where oh, wow. From BYU Stats, man, guess I remember Trent Playstead getting more rebounds than he did. That's the name I haven't thought of in a long time. But no, I think he's absolutely a guy that is going to be that steadying force on a roster that really didn't have one last year after Richie went down.
Yes.
He's a guy that's going to show up in those biggest games. Like you see Duke in the tournament, Jackson Kohler is the kind of guy you want on your team. He was kind of a giant slayer when he was at Michigan State. So I don't know. I don't think that big man search really could have gone much better. And it's kind of that Seinfeld clip where girl is breaking up with them and he goes, "That's all right. I'll find somebody else." It always evens out for me. Everything like what I've decided, and this might be my first hot take of the episode. being a BYU fan is just having a B plus at everything. Like you have your ceiling is a Sweet 16. You're just outside the playoff, but you're pretty darn good. You're upper middle tier of the Big 12 in terms of resources. All the gear that we get, like that's available for BYU fans, is pretty cool, but there's always something that's just like slightly off with it, and I can't explain why. That's the life of a BYU fan, is just having a B plus at everything.
Yeah, growing up, the way I always put it, maybe this is just speaking on my own sad personal experience until August 17th, 2023, when I was married, but it was BYU was the girl that flirts with you and then just ghosts you.
Yeah.
BYU is the girl that's mean to you all night and then kisses you on the cheek at the end of the night, and you're just like, what? Like, I guess you're gonna keep stringing me along, Like it's just enough to leave you frustrated, but also enough to keep you going. So that's where it's
they'll
at.
ignore you, but bring you flowers every once in a while.
Right. And I just think you look at this big man search, like I just feel like we talk about like the intro to the championship DVD, and just thinking about like all these podcast clips that they're going to show. It's like BYU needs a center. Like we keep missing out on people. And then it transitions into like, 5-5. Are these players going to come? And it's Jackson Kohler. Like, I just feel like the fact that BYU went like 0-24 or whatever it was on centers and then got Jackson Kohler just adds to the myth and the legend of who he could be at BYU. Like, I think about like Akeem Olajuwon. Do you know how he ended up at Houston?
No.
He came, I forget what African country he's from, so forgive me, but he was taking recruiting visits across the country, and the first one was St. John's. So he gets to JFK Airport. It's the middle of winter. He walks outside, and he's like, absolutely not. It is way too cold. So then he calls whoever sent him out, and he's like, hey, of all these recruiting trips that you sent me on, who has the closest weather to where I'm from? And they're like, it's Houston. And he's like, all right, guess my other flights. I'm going to Houston. Like, I'm committing right now. And that's like a legendary story because it's Akeem. Like, and when we talk about Jackson Kohler 20 years from now, and it's like when the That Guy Rocks Twitter account is putting out Jackson Kohler highlights from the Elite Eight against Syracuse this year. Like, and it's him just like working down low and hitting threes. It's like, man, remember when he was the 25th option at center for BYU and he turned out to be the best center they've had in 20 years, right? Like, so it's gonna be really fun. I'm the sky's the limit with Jackson Kohler. It's gonna be really fun to watch.
There really is like a general conference talk that could be written about the kind of patience that it takes to get a Jackson Kohler in the system. Like
this is the fourth floor, last door of BYU basketball.
100%. It's the God I want it meme. Yes. Where she has the small teddy bear and he's got the big teddy bear like that. It's again, things always even out for me. Like we lose Mark Pope, we get Kevin Young. We lose Colin Chandler, we get Jaeger Dielman, and then end up with Colin Chandler anyway. It really, again, things just find a way to come up BYU. But they really have decided to ruin my life in almost every meaningful way possible because they get so close but don't quite get all the way. Which is a story for another time.
I think I know the story you're referring to.
It involves a Twitter DM and a BYU coach. Text if you got my number, text me about it, and that's all it's you.
It's an all-timer.
All right, so is that enough BYU about? Like basketball is kind of your purview, but football is kicking off in about 11 days.
I mean, yeah, basketball's what's going to pay the checks for me, but also football drives the bus. Like Brian Santiago said at his introductory press conference.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Reference.
Which game this weekend are you most excited to see? Because I am going to be absolutely locked into UNLV Memphis as if it was Niners Cowboys in the 90s.
I was literally I was going to say Tanner Wall versus Jack Kelly in the NFL preseason, but
there you go. That works
too. Yeah. I mean, just honestly, week 0, like you get the weirdest games, but it's the most satisfying. It's like if you go on a hike for like 8 hours and the only drink left for you at the end is like a Fresca and you're like, oh, I hate Fresca, but it tastes so good because you haven't had anything. Like that's what week 0 is like UNLV Memphis. Like why should I care? But I'm going to be so locked in, like you said, like no one.
Because it's there, Jackson, because it's there.
And don't call me. I'm locked in. No. I'm about to run in Rebels.
Dude, I'm so freaking excited. My wife is at a bachelorette trip all weekend. It's just going to be me and the baby, and I will be standing in front of the TV, rocking back and forth for 10 straight hours. Baby Charlotte, dude, she is locked in on football. We were up probably until like 2 a.m. the other night, and we were just binge watching classic games from 2013.
Let's go, dude. That early 2010s era of college football is so underrated. Like I mean, maybe like that's when I was like middle school, and like I'm just so nostalgic for that era. Like I love the era we're in right now, but just like that era was so much fun. Like the Jadeveon Clowney, like killing the guy in the Outback Bowl, like Tavon Austin, like those were the days.
Like, and it goes back to I posted about it this week, but like someone was posting Tavon Austin highlights on the timeline, which I am contractually obligated to retweet every time I see him. But it's just like it felt like every year in that like early 2010s era from who was the first one? DeAnthony Thomas to like Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. In that era, it felt like every year we just had a guy who just had the filthiest mixtape you've ever seen in your entire life. It feels like we haven't had one of those in a while.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Genty had a really good one at Boise State, but he wasn't like super flashy speed.
Yeah.
I thought Zachariah Branch at USC was going to be that when he had a kickoff return for a touchdown in week 0 of his true freshman season, and he never really truly panned out to be that kind of guy. It's weird, but of course we're going to have LJ Martin this season.
I was gonna say LJ Martin's your guy for that. I mean, he's. I just feel like when I think of like great BYU running backs like Luke Staley, Jamal Williams, Tyler Algier, Harvey Unga, like LJ's right up there, man. And this is the year where it's all gonna come together. Like last year was great, but I feel like just this year is the coronation. You know, like this is where he takes his rightful place. And I feel like when Jamal Williams came back in 2016, he sat out for a year. Like there was all this pressure, like, yo, can he be the guy? And he lived up to that challenge. And I feel like we're about to see the same thing with LJ. Like we know he can be the guy, but it's like, can you do it 2 years in a row? Like, can you replicate it? Like when they stack the box against you, can you go? And, man, it's gonna be fun to watch. And like this is a legit All-American type guy running back that BYU has. And I mean, Algier was great, Unga was great, Jamal was great, but like they haven't had a legit All-American type guy since Luke Staley. That's a game changer.
When was the last time that BYU had an NFL draft pick at every single position on the roster? I need BYU stats man on that. But it's like Bear is going to get drafted at some point. Any true freshman who's performed that well, and if he takes a step forward, he's going to find a way to be in the first 7 rounds of the NFL draft. I feel like LJ is for sure going to get drafted. Bruce Mitchell is for sure going to get drafted. Keanu Tanavasa has a really good shot at getting drafted. I think Nusi Tamoy-Peau is probably going to end up getting drafted at some point.
Honestly, can I pause real quick? If there's one guy that I could put all my money on being an NFL draft pick on this team, it's Nusi.
Dude, when we get into the defensive preview, I got a stat for you that's going to blow your mind.
He's so good. Like a full season of Nusi is going to be just eye-opening for everybody in Cougar Nation.
So, like, and again, we'll get to the stat in a little bit, but in the only game last season where he played more than 50 snaps, he led the team in tackles, he led the team in pressures, he led the team in fumbles forced. Like, that dude was just a havoc player waiting to happen at any given time.
I know the sample size isn't great, but his pressure rate last year was absurd. Like
I got the stat for you. Coming up.
We'll call that a tease and come back later.
But you got Nusi on the defensive line. You got Uluave and Glasgow, who are both slated to get drafted. Sauts Wallace for sure going to get drafted. Evan Johnson's for sure going to get drafted. The only really question is there a receiver like Legends maybe someday could end up being that guy? I think one of Roger Saliapaga and Walker Lyons are going to get drafted. So it's like everywhere I look on this roster, I see a future NFL player, and I can't say I've felt that in a long time, which absolutely terrifies me for this season.
Yeah, I was at practice today, and a couple nice takeaways by the defense. Evan Johnson caught a tip pass. Javen Williams went up and got a contested deep ball interception. And as I was watching, it kind of hit me what you just said. It's like, dude, this is like, these are all NFL players on this defense. Like, this isn't your former Deacons Quorum president. Like this is a dude who's going to play in the league. Like, and it's at every position, like you said. Like, there's depth too. There's so much upside on this defense, and it is a little scary because it feels like the hype has. I know we're on the Hype Train podcast, and we're supposed to testify of hype, but at the same time, like, it feels like the hype is reaching pretty dangerous levels where it's like, the BYU heartbreak's around the corner, but at the same time, they just have so many NFL guys on this defense. And I think 2017's defense had NFL guys at a lot of positions, and we know what happened that year, but at the same time, like, that defense was awesome. Like, that defense was on the field too much was the only problem because Coy Detmer's still throwing interceptions wherever he is. I think he's at Michigan, which is funny. But like this year's defense with the NFL talent they have, coupled with the offense that BYU is going to put on the field, like, this could be all-time stuff, especially with the schedule they have. Like, beat Notre Dame, like that's a win that we're going to make T-shirts of. Like,
Is there any concern? Like, what could go wrong this year? Knock on wood. Like, because it felt like when expectations have been high in the past, 2008 was a great example. Undefeated was the expectation. They wound up going 10-2 in the regular season. Wasn't a bad year by any stretch, but
yeah,
what didn't meet the hype. 2022 had some levels of that expectation, I think, but the defense was always a question mark. We had seen enough cracks in the defense that the blow up that happened on that side of the ball in 2022 wasn't a huge surprise. That 2022 offense completely lived up to the hype. Yeah. Like, every time I look up a stat about that 2022 offense, that offense ruled and was completely let down by an absolutely atrocious defense.
And if Chris Brooks is healthy the whole season, who knows what happens, right? It's kind of a Tyson Williams 2019 situation. Like, obviously he was out for the season early, but Brooks missed some time in the middle.
And what if Jaron doesn't separate his shoulder against Utah State and he has a terrible run between Notre Dame and ECU that year? That if he doesn't get hurt, what happens there? But it's at this point it's really just health, because there's really the talent on that defense in 2022 was so dire, and the depth on that defense was so dire that it really wasn't a surprise. Again, it should not have been a surprise that the bottom fell out quite like it did.
I think there's only one NFL guy on that defense, and it's Tyler Batty. I guess Jacob Robinson too, but like Jacob
was Zane Anderson on that, or was he gone by then?
He was gone by then. 2020 was his last year. Okay. So like, we went from a team that had like, and who knows, like, I mean, Ben Bywater would have probably gotten some looks had he not had to medically retire, right? Like, he would have been at a training camp or on practice squad. But like Tyler Batty, undrafted free agent fringe roster guy, and Jacob Robinson, who's playing really well and is going to make the Niners, it looks like. But he was also very young and not really in his final form yet, So those are two NFL guys on an entire defense. And now BYU might have 11 NFL guys playing at once on a defense. That's pretty jarring. I mean, like, this is when BYU jumped to the Big 12, I was very encouraged by the fact that Kalani had made a similar transition in the past at Utah and that he'd been the defensive coordinator, just because, like, BYU, it's a very offensive-minded school. Like, there's always going to be Mormon quarterbacks. Like, you're always going to find offensive talent at BYU, I feel like. Like, the years that they don't, like the 2020 or the 2017 type years, like those that's why it's so shocking that those years happen, because that's not what BYU does. Defense, on the other hand, like, you're always going to need, like, the Lavelle era teams are winning games 52-49, right? Like, you really need some extra attention on defense. And so the fact that Kalani had been in charge of a defense in a similar transition, I was like, okay, he knows what to do. He knows best practices. Like, he's been around the block before. And I think you're kind of seeing it right now, where we're talking about the year before BYU joined the Big 12, they had 2 NFL players on defense. Now they have potentially 11 NFL players on defense and at least 8 that are for sure NFL guys. Like,
I mean, like, literally an NFL scout, you can go read Jeff Hansen's article on 24/7, but 9 players, 9 draft eligible players. So this does not include Bear and Newsy and those kind of guys. 9 draft eligible players with draftable grades right now. Like, I don't think all 9 will get drafted, but this is an extremely talented group. And we can use this to kind of transition into our defensive preview. it feels like the biggest question on everyone's mind, and really the biggest question mark on this roster as a whole, is how much are we going to miss Jay Hill?
That's a stumper, man. that's a tough one to consider, just because you kept so much of the talent. Like, no one really left, but at the same time, it's a new staff, and new staffs do things their way. And so even when you have a group that's been doing things together for so long, but they've been doing it their way, and now, like, that's going back to kind of what could go wrong with this defense. They have so much talent in the secondary, but I worry about getting organized, communication type stuff. Like, Tanner Wall was like essentially another green dot on the field at safety, just because of how cerebral he was and his ability to align people. You're losing him. Jay Hill, safeties coach, just defensive mastermind behind everything that BYU accomplished the last 2 years. He's gone. Gennaro Guilford, the best cornerbacks coach BYU's ever had, potentially one of the best position coaches BYU's ever had. Like, legitimately, like, think about the corners you grew up watching BYU with, and then think about what BYU's had in the Kalani era. Like, it's night and day. Gennaro Guilford is an incredible coach. He will sorely be missed. Gavin Fowler, love him. He's at Weber State now, defensive coordinator. Excited to see what they do. But that's a lot of kind of brain power in terms of the secondary to be losing. And I know that they have a really solid secondary, but I just worry about like early defensive breakdowns, because they switch the terminology, and some people are on board and some people aren't, that kind of thing. And so it's nitpicking for me, just because I think the talent is so strong, but also, like, we saw it last year with basketball. Like, scheme can throw everyone for a loop, no matter how talented you are. And I really think, like, especially with, you have Arizona week 2, and Noah Fafita is probably the best quarterback in the Big 12. They're going to be throwing the heck out of the football. And I hope BYU secondary is up to the task, especially, I mean, Satwala's been practicing again. Who knows if he's actually going to be playing in games by then, because injuries are just so weird in general. Like, you would think you'd be playing by then, but the one thing about this defense that keeps me up at night is the secondary's alignment and communication. But like I said, that's kind of a nitpick. Like, talent should overrule scheme in that regard, but it's still something. I'm still monitoring the situation.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. Like, I think in that first scrimmage that we only saw practice highlights of it, but it did look like there were some open guys that were running downfield. It felt like in spring ball, we saw a lot of clips of receivers getting open. I think this past week, the things we've seen out of fall camp have probably been more encouraging in that regard. Like you mentioned, there were multiple interceptions today. There's a double-edged sword to that, because it's like, ooh, is Bear making bad decisions kind of thing. But at least the one I saw today, where it was Evan Johnson's pick, where Bear was trying to fit it over Uluave, between Johnson, and just airmailed it a little bit, bounced off Lyons' hands and into the waiting arms of Evan Johnson. The reason that was a pick was because you had two guys that were in perfect position. Like, Uluave understood his assignment. He was in the right spot. Evan Johnson understood his assignment. He was in the right spot. And neither of those guys really had to move to affect the play. I think the thing that makes me less worried about the defensive scheme is that you have at least 5 guys on defense that you can just put one-on-one with someone and say, hey, go win a matchup. And I feel like they can win that matchup. Keanu Tanavasa was third in the Big 12, third among Big 12 defensive tackles and pressures last year. And that was with him playing a lot more 3-man front, which he's not used to. Like with Justin Kirkland, with Bodie Schoonover being able to slide in a little bit more, I feel like he's going to be a little bit better. Kedu Luave was the number 1 linebacker in the country in pressure rate last year. He's a guy I think you can just say go win a matchup. Evan Johnson was the third. I think he was like top 10 in the country last year in passer rating when targeted in man coverage. You can put him on the other team's best receiver, and I feel confident he's going to be the better guy in that matchup. Nusi Tamoipeau, and here comes the stat. Among players with at least 50 pass rushes, number 1 in the country in pressure rate. That's more than Romello Height. That's more than David Bailey. That's more than John Henry Daly. again, the sample size was small, but number one in the country in pressures. Like that is unbelievable for a true freshman.
Yeah.
And then we haven't even mentioned Falatal Satuala, who's probably the best player on the defense. Like for me, the bottom can't fall out on this defense because the talent is too good. Like I think a lot of some BYU fans fear this, and I know for sure that Utah fans legitimately think this is going to happen. That the only reason BYU's defense has been good was because of Jay Hill. I think Jay Hill was a huge part of that. But BYU is not going back to a defense that's outside the top 100 with this level of talent. This defense is too talented to fall apart like that. Like we saw it in the early years of the Ilaisa Tuiaki era, where when BYU had talent on that defense, those defenses were pretty darn good.
Yeah. I think I should rephrase what I said earlier. I think when I talk about like being worried about the defense, I mean that as in like worried that something will keep BYU from being the best defense in the Big 12 and instead be like like it's like they're not going to fall out of like they're going to be a good defense, right? It's just like they should be an elite defense,
Like what's the floor? Like what's the
defense
for the defense?
Floor is probably like 8th in the Big 12 just because I think they have enough talent to be in the upper half, but also the Big 12 is weird and there could be injuries and there's always good quarterbacks in the Big 12 and maybe a few guys go nuclear and just destroy the stats. But really, I mean, I don't think they can look. I don't mean like knock on wood, like jinxes aren't real, whatever you want to say. Like I just don't see a scenario where BYU isn't a top half in the Big 12 defense, right? And that's being extremely conservative. Like there's so much talent, and I feel like BYU historically, like just the BYU that we all grew up with, right? Like the saying with BYU is the sum is always greater than the parts. And I feel like that's always going to be BYU's strength. I think that's part of why basketball went the way it did last year, where the sum didn't really match up with the parts they had. And I think this year the sum is going to be great, but also the parts themselves, like, whoa, like there's a lot of good parts in the mix.
Absolutely. We'll continue with our preview in a second. First, we want to thank our sponsors. Wilner O'Reilly Immigration Law. Need help with immigration? Wilner O'Reilly has 26 years of experience, a former immigration officer, and a reputation you can trust. They serve professional athletes, entertainers, Fortune 500 companies, and families, and treat every case with the same level of care. They speak 10 languages, including Spanish, and consultations are always free for Hype Train listeners, no strings attached. Go to WilnerO'Reilly.com and mention the Hype Train to connect with the team that gets results. Also want to shout out our sponsors, Letterman Golf. Hype Train 15 will get you 15% off your head covers, your ball markers. Again, super high quality stuff. I have a Letterman head cover for almost everything that I have. So I definitely love that. Odeon menswear, look good, feel good so that you can do good in the biggest moments of your life. Again, Hype Train 15 will get you 15% off your suit order, among the best in the business. And finally, we have Thread Wallets promoting their collegiate collection. I've had one of their BYU keychains for the last 4 years. Have really, really loved it. I get compliments on it all the time. Really grateful to be partnering with Thread. Hype Train 15 will get you 15% off there as well.
Dude, every time I hop on the pod, you guys have a bunch of new sponsors. Like, what an incredible run for the boys.
It spreads.
It spreads.
And they're names that like they're. I think that's the craziest thing is like I met the guy from Thread Wallets, their CFO, at a golf simulator a couple months ago. He saw my Thread Wallet keychain and he goes, "Oh yeah, are you the Hype Train podcast guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "We want to partner with you," and I'm like, "So do I." And it's still crazy that I've been using Thread Wallet stuff for a very long time, and now they're a sponsor. It's super cool. All right, if you had to rank the position groups on this defense, how would you do it?
That's really tough. I really like linebacker just because I think Kedu Olave and Isaiah Glasker are both like legit defensive player of the year candidates in the conference.
I mean, I think this is the best linebacker group BYU's had since 2012.
Yeah. Maybe. There's the fact that you could take Ulave off the field and roll like a fresh Ciale Serra is really frightening to think about.
Dude, Jake Clifton. Jake Clifton was a Power 4 starter before his mission. Evidently looks awesome. He's running with the ones. Like
these are guys, BYU's guys, they're twos. Like you use up a Glasgow and Ulave, and you're rolling out a guy who would have started for 95% of every other BYU team in history. Like the depth at linebacker is crazy right now.
Yeah, I mean, we could play that game. It's like, who's the worst player on this BYU defense that would have started in 2022? There's kind of a lot. Like we won't call out anyone on the podcast, but like the talent has upgraded on defense so well. I agree with you. I think linebackers are the best position group on the roster. That includes running back, that includes offensive line, that includes quarterback. This linebacker group is absolutely loaded, and there isn't anything that those guys can't do. Like I can drop Isaiah Glasgow into coverage and trust that he's going to get the job done. I can put him in the A gap, and I can trust he's going to get the job done. I can tell him to rush the passer. He's going to get the job done. Katie Ulave is a very, very similar type of player. Again, top pass rusher among linebackers in the country last year by pressure rate. That dude's a stud. And then you just kind of like roll in Ciale Serra off the bench, who's a former 4-star recruit and has been very, very productive in his time at BYU. Nusi Tamoy-Peau can double as kind of your off-ball linebacker, edge rusher kind of guy. There's a lot to like. Like this linebacker core is about as deep and as good as I've ever seen it. And I feel like you could run 7 deep and not even really experience a drop-off in play.
100%. And I just think the fact, I brought it up earlier, but there's 2 guys on this, like 2 of BYU's starting linebackers are legit defensive player of the year candidates.
Yeah.
BYU is 2 of those guys at the same position. Like, I know they have like Evan Johnson could be a defensive player of the year. Faletau Satawala, Keanu Tanavasa. Like there are other candidates on the team, but 2 at the same position is an abundance of riches.
Your first team all Big 12 this season is going to, at linebacker, is going to be BYU and Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Like first and second team are just going to be BYU and Texas Tech.
And that's part of why I'm so bullish on this defense, is because the front 7, that's how Texas Tech became such a dominant force. And BYU's front 7 this year is so much better than it's been in years, right? Like they have so much depth. There's so much potential. There's got like, I'm going to rave about Nusi so much on this pod. I think Nusi Tamoy-Peau is a superstar in the making at BYU, and just the twitchiness off the line, the explosiveness, like his pass rush moves, like he's a beautiful pass rushing specimen. And I think when you have a guy like that playing alongside a Keanu Tanavasa and a slimmed down Justin Kirkland and Hunter Clegg's on one side and Tafsili Khan is on another side and Bodie Schoonover is healthy, and you got all these linebackers who can just get pressure rolling out of bed in the morning. Like, holy cow! Like something special is going to happen.
I mean, you mentioned the edge rushers. Here's how talented I think the BYU defense is. I think defensive tackle and edge are probably the 2 least, like the 2 worst positions on the defense. Like Faletau Satawala, like safeties. So my ranking would be linebacker, corner, safeties, edge, defensive tackle, in that order. I think we've already talked about the linebackers. I think at corner, you have a legitimate top 10 corner in the country in Evan Johnson. He is a surefire NFL draft pick. One of the best. I mean, again, returning this year, I think he's like top 5 in the country in passer rating when targeted in man coverage. Like that dude is an absolute baller. I really like, Trey Alexander was really, really good in zone coverage. As we welcome Nate Slack to the show, Cougar Sports Saturday co-host. Super stoked to have you, Nate.
Good to see you guys. Sorry I'm late. I was coaching a stud T-ball team. We don't really keep track of score, but I like to think we won. We handled business. Fashionably late. It's good to be with you guys.
I know everyone knows I'm the multiple-time award winner for guest of the year, but Nate is like my dream guest on this pod. I haven't done a pod with him yet. This is tremendous for me to finally share such a esteemed podcast with you, my friend.
I feel the same way.
I know
'cause
it
only
really
one of us
was
has a
like
trophy.
this is the crossover absolutely no one asked for, but you're getting it anyway.
This is the scene in Oppenheimer with Einstein and Oppenheimer, where it's just like the amount of brain power happening in this frame is insane.
Let's go.
It's like the amount of facts the three of us know about the 2017 football team at BYU it's mind blowing.
Dude, Mitch Harper in the chat. We are so in this. Mitch Harper.
What did Mitch say? I'm not on the chat.
He said, "Great crossover, 3 great BYU men." Dude, I am so honored. I was foolish enough last week to put myself in the to put the hype train in the same sentence as Cougar Tracks and BYU Sports Nation. That was a huge sin on my part, so I apologize. Right. If you guys haven't listened to Cougar Sports Saturday, it is absolutely my first listen every single Monday when I'm doing my workout. I will always turn on Nate, Mitch, and the guys. They get the job done for sure.
I'm hoping they bring Nate back because he had an all-time draft fumble on drafting the Y last week, which is I can't. I had a heart attack as I watched it happen, man. It was.
Yeah, man. If you guys missed it, we were drafting. So we have a segment called Drafting the Y. We go back and forth, me and Mitch. This last week was picking the best quarterbacks of the Kalani era. And I totally whiffed. I completely forgot about Baylor Romney. I left him off my list. I had Tanner Mangum over Baylor Romney. I just missed. I whiffed it. And Mitch pointed it out, and I had a heart attack, and it was tough to recover. But Baylor, I'm sorry, man. I flew. So in 2021, I was living in Arizona. I flew back to Utah for every home game. And on almost all of my flights was Baylor and Gunnar Romney's parents. And so I shouldn't have forgotten Baylor Romney, but here I am 5 years later, couldn't remember the guy. So apologies to the Romney family. I'll let you guys down.
I will say your defense of Tanner Mangum, I thought you handled the selling of that pick as bad as the pick was as well as you could have, because the Arizona win that year was super underrated, and the Wisconsin win is honestly probably my all-time favorite BYU win, because that was the last game BYU played before I became a media member. So that was getting all my fandom
just
out at once.
Letting it all out there.
But that's the thing. When you have those two games up your sleeve, you can kind of defend it, but also dude, Baylor Romney,
I missed it.
Bootlegs mean nothing to you.
Yeah.
All right. So one, I totally feel you, Nate. Live show. But as soon as who did you pick over him? Was it Keaton?
I picked Tanner Mangum, and then
Tanner Mangum. As soon as it was Tanner Mangum, I was like, oof, he forgot Baylor Romney. Yeah. Maybe we're just doing full-time starters, but whatever.
No,
my 1-1 would have been Sol J, and I'm mad that he was.
Oh man.
Come on, guys.
All right. So we're gonna give Nate a second chance. We're gonna go around the panel, and we're gonna draft. We're going to draft BYU defensive players and kind of go that way. Nate, you get the floor. Give me your first pick of BYU defensive players
on this year's team.
Yeah,
or in Kalani era.
This year's team. Just this year's team.
Yeah, this year's team. I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Faletau Satawala. And that might be a hot take, because I think the best room on the defense is the linebacker room. But I think Faletau Satawala, he's just a different dude. We thought that when he was coming out of high school too, because I remember watching some of the All-American games and practices when he was lining up against the running back who was committed to Georgia. I think Faletau is awesome, man, and it was good to see him at practice today because he's been out with that foot injury. But I think, I know Tanner Wall is our guy, but I think Faletau Satawala is primed to have a really big year. And because the linebacker room is so strong, I would go with Faletau over one of our linebackers.
It's a good pick.
I know you felt like you had to defend Tanner right there, but I need you to know there's nobody who wants there's no one who wants Faletau to be better than he was than Tanner. So I think
I feel bad for Tanner because now he's stuck on the Jets, and so I just had to give him a shout out.
No, why do we fall, Bruce? I'm just kidding.
Jackson, you get picked too.
Kedu Lave, I feel like I love guys that stuff the stat sheet. I think about basketball, think about Andre Kirilenko, just every game it's 10 rebounds, 10 points, like 5 blocks, 5 assists, a bunch of steals. Like that's how I feel like he's going to be every game where it's like, dang, Cade had like 8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack. He forced the fumble, and the next week he's going to sack. I just feel like Jacob Rodriguez last year on Texas Tech. I'm not saying Cade's like that kind of player, but just Rodriguez affected every aspect of the game. Like he made his presence felt everywhere. I feel like Cade Olave is going to be a similar type of player this year. And I mean, he's my pick to win Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. So I hope he makes me look smart, because I would love to write about that.
I'm going to go, first of all, great pick. Cade is a violent player. Like that's the thing that stands out most on tape. You go watch his highlights from Cal last season. That dude hits, man. Like in the first clip, he's like folding people in half. He's a really fun player to watch, and he just loves it. Like I love seeing his mic'd up from a couple days ago. That dude is just amped to hurt people in the nicest way possible. He seems like a real stand-up guy, but again, dude is absolutely violent. I'm going to go with Evan Johnson. I really like what he brings to the table. I think we had this conversation in the chat a few days ago. Where would you rank, like who would you take? Eddie Hecker, start bench cut Eddie Hecker, Jacob Robinson, and Evan Johnson. I think I was the only guy that picked Evan to start on that team. I think he's a complete player. He's awesome in man coverage. He's awesome in zone coverage. He always seems to be where you need him to be. He leads the league in clutch plays at the end of games. And we've already talked about, again, just how good he is locking down the other team's best receiver. This might be a foolish pick because I don't think teams are going to throw his direction very often this year. But if I'm building a defense and I can't take either of the guys you took, I'm taking Evan Johnson.
That's a good pick. You can't go wrong with Evan Johnson.
If we want to do snake draft, I'm going to steal this guy from Jackson, but Nusi Tamoy-Peau.
Don't do it. Oh, my chest.
And this is an upset because Isaiah Glasgow has done it for longer, right? Isaiah Glasgow is awesome. Keanu Tanavasa has been doing this for a long time. Nusi Tamoy-Peau is putting up like 12 days of Christmas stat lines, man. 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 6 pressures, a sack, 2 QB hits, a forced fumble. Like he really is putting up Kyle Van Noy type stat lines in the only game he's really played a full game. If he's healthy this year, that dude has legitimate David Bailey potential. Like he could be the most dominant pass rusher in terms of the NFL draft that BYU has had since Ziggy. It would not surprise me to see that kid go in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft someday.
I'm so mad at Joe because I thought I was safe with Nusi at 5.
I had that one in my back pocket too.
That's the thing. Nate was going to go next anyway, and I didn't think Nate would take him. I mean, I know Nate knows ball, but I for some reason I just thought I had him, and I'm never going to forgive you. But that's the thing. Like I think every time Von Miller signs with the new team, his tagline, he's always like, "I can get out of bed and rush the passer." That's Nusi, right? Like the pressure rate that he got last year, like he's so clearly just a force of nature.
It was like 20%. Like 1 out of every 5 times he rushed the passer, he got to the quarterback.
It's absurd, man. I'm so excited to see what he can do with the full season. So I guess if my beloved Nusi is now off the table, I got to go with Glasgow then. Like you've said, he's done it before. I'm just gonna have a monopoly on the linebackers at BYU just because that, like we said, like that's the best unit on the team. That's an unbelievable room. It
could be worse.
It could be much worse. I don't want to name names, but there are names that we've watched that are worse.
Okay, well, if you guys took the next 2 guys I was going to pick, but I feel like you can't mention Nusi Tamoy-Peau without saying Tausili Akana too. I feel like Tausili Akana and Nusi Tamoy-Peau are kind of cut from the same cloth. They're pretty much the same size too. I'm looking here. Tausili Akana is 6'3", 235. Nusi is listed at, where did he go? He's at like 6'3", 242. So they're right there. But I feel like Tausili Akana, he's still trying to. I think here's an interesting question for you guys. What do you think their peak, their ceiling is? Do you think Nusi has a higher ceiling or Tausili? Because I don't know. Part of me wants to say Tausili does just because he was a higher rated recruit. He's the guy who went to Texas, didn't quite do as well at Texas. He's been able to put some more weight on, but he has that relentless motor, just like Nusi. So I mean, both guys, I'm super stoked to watch, but I'm kind of think that Tausili may have the higher ceiling.
That is a great question, because I'm with you. Like, he was the higher rated recruit. I think it just took him a little bit longer, where Nusi flashed immediately. And because he's flashed immediately, he hasn't had a problem putting on the necessary weight. I think I would go with Nusi. But, dude, Tausili, that dude showed up in the biggest moments. And I think that's where we need more from him this year, is we just need to see it consistently. Because when BYU needed him against Arizona, like when BYU needed him to get off the field, the guy that was getting to Noah Fifita was Tausili. Against Utah, I think he was the one who had the pressure that drew the interception to Tanner. I might be wrong on that, but that's how I remember it. Like, in the biggest moments, Tausili was the guy getting to the quarterback. And I think this year, I think we say it every year, but I think this is the year BYU gets pressure with 4, especially on those 3rd and long situations, because you're telling me there's a world where you have Tausili on one side, Nusi on the other. You can slide Schoonover into more of like a defensive tackle spot, and you have Keanu Tanavasa in the middle as well, who is, again, 3rd in the Big 12 among defensive tackles and pressures. That's nasty. Like, that's about as good as BYU's had along the defensive line, and that I can remember. Like, BYU's done such an awesome job recruiting those positions over the last couple of years, that I think this is the year that finally becomes a reality as opposed to a hypothetical.
And I feel like Nusi's going to be more healthy this year, because last year it wasn't much of a secret. He was dealing with injury. And then it comes out in February, I think it was, he had his surgery on his Achilles. So I wish Trevor was here to talk about that, because he's been through that and kind of the rehab and how difficult that is. But I think he may be healthier this season than he was last season, which would be nice to see.
A healthy Nusi for 12 plus games is just what a thought that is. And I'm really high on Akana too. Like you said, like, it just felt like he was a clutch time player. Like, his batting average in clutch situations was really high. He had that David Freese run of just always coming in when the team needed him most.
Like, and Nusi too, man. Like, you want to go watch Nusi rush the passer, go look at that last play of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, man. That dude absolutely blitzed the left tackle on that play.
I feel like I have to give Nusi the edge in terms of ceiling, just by a hair, just because his ability to line up in so many different spots. Like, he could play on the line, he could play linebacker. Like, I feel like there's creativity in the ways that you can use Nusi and kind of like exploit matchups and stuff that gives him the upper hand there. And maybe Akana, like we talked about, he's a late bloomer, right? Like, he's still putting on weight, like he's still figuring it out, and the ceiling is so high. Maybe he kind of develops the same type of strength there. But right now, Nusi's a guy you can plug in so many different spots, which is just, the possibilities there are endless. Like, it's like BYU basketball adding Jackson Kohler. Like, the spacing opportunities and possibilities there are through the roof. That's how I feel about Nusi, where he's just this like ultra valuable chess piece. Like, anywhere you put him on the board, he's going to wreak havoc.
Speaking of havoc, I love this snake draft because it's my turn again. I'm going with Keanu Tanavasa. And I think Keanu Tanavasa, he's like the personification of last year's defense, where he comes in with really high expectations. And I think he would even admit he didn't reach those expectations. Whether that was, I don't exactly know the reason why.
Can I jump in there?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, I need to pull up the actual stat. He was playing out of position last year. I think at Utah, he was almost primarily in a 4-man front, where he wasn't drawing. He wasn't a block eater at Utah. Last year, he played roughly twice as many snaps at nose tackle last year as he had as an entire career before that combined. Like that, because of the injury to Justin Kirkland, Keanu was asked to play a different style of defense because that's what the scheme demanded at that point. I think with Justin Kirkland, with the healthy Justin Kirkland and a slimmed down Justin Kirkland, I think he's going to be able to play more in the role that he's known to play. He's going to draw a lot less double teams. And I think because of that, I think he's going to be a lot more noticeable than he was last year, even though like it's hard to evaluate a defensive tackle just on his stats, right?
Yeah, I hope that's the case too, because last year's defense was good, but I think we went into the year thinking the defense was going to be elite. And I feel like the 2024 defense was still a step above. But I think that this 2026 defense is going to be closer to the 2024 defense than to the 2025 defense. And I think a lot of that's going to be because of the defensive tackles. Like you mentioned, Justin Kirkland, he shed 40 pounds. That's a lot, especially when he was coming off that knee injury he suffered in fall camp. Playing at 300 pounds versus 340 is a huge difference. So that's going to ease up a lot of things for Keanu. I totally agree with you.
And I think too, like we talked about, just the pick your poison aspect of this defensive line now, where it's like, all right, if you block Keanu, Nusie's right there. You block Nusie, Akana's right there. You block Akana, Kirkland's right there. And I just think everyone's going to eat. Like it's just I don't think you're going to need block eaters specifically, because you're going to have to block and double team certain guys on that defensive line, and it's going to open up stuff for other people. So just, man, what it's going to be. The front seven that BYU has, I'm so excited for. Like, I know I talked about how my one concern was the secondary, but at the same time, like, the secondary might not have to cover for too long, because if this front seven gets home, like with all the pressure hounds that are on this front seven, like, I hope Trey Alexander's ready for a couple picks. Just, get off the line, turn around right there, just because they're going to have to throw the ball away immediately because Tanavasa or Akana's in their face.
Like on the defensive side of the ball, I think Keanu is kind of that linchpin that's going to make BYU either a playoff team or in a Pop-Tarts Bowl 2-time champion, right? Like,
not that there's anything wrong with that.
We know, yeah, people's national champ, baby. We know what we're getting from Falatau. We know what we're going to get from this linebacker core. We know what we're going to get from Evan Johnson. The difference is that BYU really wasn't that great against the run last year. I think they were like in the 30s in EPA per play against the rush, in the 30s in success rate. The defense itself was like 40th in the country in yards allowed. To Nate's point, we were expecting elite top 10 in the country. And to be honest, the defense was a little disappointing last year. And I don't have all the answers as to why, but I think a big reason was the defensive line didn't quite step up. You had guys out of position, and so teams could run the football on BYU a little bit more than they had the year prior. They could also throw the ball a little bit more, which was a little bit surprising given the talent that was in that secondary. But I think Keanu Tanavasa is going to be that difference, because that was the position that's the position that can influence every single play that you run. Whether it's a run or whether it's a pass, Keanu Tanavasa can either fill that hole in the run game, or he can get to the quarterback. If he can be that dominant defensive tackle that we thought we were getting out of Utah, this defense is going to be a problem, because the offenses are going to be behind the chains all the time. The real one of the biggest reasons the defense struggled last year was, again, they didn't get to the quarterback enough. They weren't getting enough pressure. And so there were a lot of big plays to be had when you're blitzing as often as BYU does. You don't get home, there's going to be opportunities down the field. So I think that's part of it. If BYU can get pressure with 4, this defense is going to look a lot closer to Texas Tech's last year than it did to BYU's last year.
Even without BYU having a David Bailey? Because that's the only hesitant I would have against saying that, is because, like, David Bailey, I feel like, just completely transformed that Texas Tech defense. I feel like he allowed Jacob Robinson to do what Jacob Robinson did, or Rodriguez did. I think Jacob Rodriguez was really, really good, but like David Bailey was just on another level. So it'd be nice if the Nusi could do that.
How much do you like Nusi and Tausili? That's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have missed it. Nusi had amongst edge rushers with at least 50 pass rushes, he had the highest pressure rate in the country last year, above David Bailey. So I don't know if that's sustainable over 300 pass rush reps as opposed to 50. It's probably not, but I think Nusi is that talented where maybe he won't give you David Bailey numbers, but I do think BYU's sack total is going to go from 30 to closer to 40.
Well, kind of like what was said too is it's kind of like a pick your poison on defense, because you can't block everybody who's going to be coming in. And if you send Glasgow on a blitz and you send Uluavi on a blitz, like, you're not going to be able to contain everybody. I think it was Jackson who was saying that, but it's going to be interesting to see, like, even what the final numbers are, because I know that they were talking about a goal of 50 sacks. And then Kelly Papinga was like, they're kind of overrated. I don't think it wasn't like he doesn't care about sacks. but I think this team's going to generate a lot. I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to get more sacks this year than they did last year, because last year, like 10 of those sacks, I think it was 10, came from Jack Kelly, and he's obviously gone. But I think expectations should be really, really high for the defense as a whole, even though Jay Hill is gone, and there may be some fan bases that say the defense is going to be awful, but I honestly have no concerns about the defense whatsoever.
And that was going to be my next question for you, because I asked Jackson is, how much of a drop off are you expecting from Jay Hill to Kelly Poppinga?
None.
I'm
honestly none.
I think it's going to improve, and it's
so
not.
Too.
It's not. That's not to say Jay Hill was bad. He was awesome. This is going to get me canceled. Jay Hill is overrated by BYU fans. I really believe that. I think the stark contrast from what we had before to Jay Hill was so stark that it was really easy to think that all of BYU's success was because of Jay Hill. And there's a lot of things that Jay Hill changed. I think recruiting really stepped up under Jay Hill. That said, how much of that was NIL and how much of that was the transfer portal and how much of that was the Big 12? Because in most of those classes, like last year's class, BYU's offense out-recruited the defense. That has nothing to do with Jay Hill. And I've seen people literally try to say that Jay Hill is the one who made the offense look good, and therefore all of those Rider Lions came because of Jay Hill. Like, it's just, we twist ourselves in knots trying to convince ourselves of certain things. But like with the talent level the defense had last year, the defense unequivocally took a step back. The defenses under Jay Hill were ranked it's in the 70s in 23. They were awesome in 24, and then back in the 40s in 25. I think the talent is enough that I don't think the schematics from Jay Hill to Kelly Poppinga are really going to change much.
Yeah, and I don't think if you ask the players too that same question, I don't think the players would say it, but they also kind of did, right? Saltuala didn't follow him to Michigan. Glasgow didn't go to Michigan. BYU still got Uluwave. No players really left. No starters on the defense left. And
BYU is still out-recruiting Michigan for players they both want.
Exactly. And I would have been more concerned if BYU had lost like Gary Anderson, because I think Gary Anderson and Kalani are going to have more of their fingerprints on this defense. But people just they talk about Jay Hill this, Jay Hill that. Like, I think Gary Anderson is just as important, if not more so, than Jay Hill would be in 2026.
Everybody who talked to me about Gary Anderson last year always used the same term, which was secret sauce. It's like Gary Anderson is the secret sauce. Like Jay Hill, I think there's a lot of truth to what Joe said. I think
he was awesome.
Yes, he was great.
Jay needed to raise the bar of what a BYU defense could be, you know? Like, he needed to kind of prepare the way, for lack of a better term.
It was proof of concept.
BYU's defense was a black hole for a while, and he turned it into one of the best in the country. And I think too, with the talent that they had, obviously they ran some cool stuff, and there was a defensive culture that was tangible, but at the same time, it's not like Jay Hill's the only person who could do that, right? Like, he didn't do anything absurdly unique, and that's not to take away from what he did. He accomplished some. We were just talking about it, Nate. The 2022 defense had 2 NFL players on it, and they're both fringe practice squad type guys. And this year's defense and last year's defense had NFL talent at pretty much every position. That's a crazy metamorphosis under Jay Hill. But at the same time, Kelly Poppinga was part of that too. Kelly Poppinga is the defensive coordinator now for a reason. And the players, like you said, they clearly sent their message because they rallied around the new guy. And I think especially if we were going to keep going, I don't know if we're still doing the draft. My next draft is going to be Javen. My next pick was going to be Javen Williams. And over Trey.
Over Trey is crazy.
Over Mooney.
What have you done for me? Javen had a pick today in practice. He had a pick another time when I was there. 2 forced fumbles last year in the SEC, a pick. I just feel like he's a chaos agent at the cornerback position. And I just feel like, Evan Johnson is so clearly BYU's quarterback 1. And I feel like that cornerback 2 position, obviously I think it's going to be Trey to start the year, but I think it's going to be more open competition. That's not a knock on Trey. I love Trey. He's a great dude, great player. I just think that there's so much just awesome competition in that cornerback room. And I think too, the fact that they're losing Guilford, the players hear all the same stuff we do. Like I just called Gennaro Guilford one of the best position coaches in the history of BYU, which is just an undoubted fact or an undebatable fact, right? And I think the players, when you get a new coach and, you get a little chip on your shoulder, and I don't want to go full Bill Simmons Ewing theory, but like, I really think there's going to be a fire in this cornerback room this year. That's like, hey, like, let's show them that it wasn't just Gennaro. Like Gennaro was great for us, but like, we can still take the next step without him. And a guy like Javen Williams, who's like a Tasmanian devil at Mississippi State last year, like you get all those takeaways in the SEC, you're a good player. I don't care who you are. So I'm really excited to see what he does. And he was active in practice during the media portions. And no disrespect to my guy Trey, no disrespect to Raider. Just I was itching to get Javen Williams on my board.
I mean, at Mississippi State, that Mississippi State team was terrible last year, but
don't care.
He was
SEC.
But to everyone's point, he was. Sorry, you guys are really getting a hint of the Hype Train podcast. I need to find his man coverage stats. But I can kind of say him off the top of my head. Last year, he played like 45, 50 snaps in man coverage last year. He was only targeted 3 times. Like that, and that's great news. Like I think he is a really talented player. My last pick, since we're running short on time here, man, I am gonna go.
Who are you gonna leave off your board? Who's not getting picked at recess?
Fuller shirts.
Tommy Prasis. No, I'm just kidding. I think I'm going to go with Hunter Clegg just because I want it to happen for him. I think he was kind of like him and Smith Snowden were the last of the symbolic rivalry recruiting wins for Utah. And he came home and immediately chose BYU. I want him to work out at BYU so badly, and I think he's got all the potential to be that. I think in terms of raw potential, I think he has more potential to be an every down type defensive end than even Nusi and Tausili. I think they're probably more pass rush specialist, outside linebacker types. Hunter Clegg has the size and I think the talent to be able to take that next step this year. And again, if we're taking 4 defensive linemen off the board here, this defense and this front 7 particularly is going to be absolutely nasty.
And I think that's kind of the expectation, right? I feel like they have to be. It's not quite a make or break it year, but at the same time, it feels like they're kind of putting all their eggs in this basket for a big, strong 2026 season. And they should, because the way the schedule works out, the way the roster is constructed. I know people think there's distractions with the Kalani and Brian Santiago stuff, but I really don't think that impacts this team. Like I think this team is really hungry, and I'm jealous that Jackson's been able to be going to practices and stuff. I just haven't been able to make it down there. But being at like the golf event and being around some of the guys there, they're really eager to show what they can do this year. And BYU's got the bodies. We've talked about that. Even like Isaiah Glasker, like I imagine you guys are the same way. You don't really get like intimidated talking to these players because some of them have been friends, or we've just been able to be around players more often than I think like the average fan, which has been a cool opportunity. But a guy like Isaiah Glasker, like he's 6'5", 240. That's just like a massive human being. And you just kind of look at him and you're just almost like, oh my gosh, like God creates people of your size. And it's insane to look at. So I cannot wait for the year, because it feels like, remember like when we were growing up in high school and even junior high, and they would always say that BYU was always the preseason champion. And I think people now are to the point where they don't think that BYU fans expect to win the national championship and everything every year. But it feels to me more this year than in years past, where going into the year, I'm like, yeah, we're going to be really good. Like I look at that number 14 number next to BYU's name, and it's like, that just feels like it's disrespectful. BYU's done nothing over the last 8 months to have dropped 2 spots in the polls. And I understand it's a good spot to start, because I feel like that really impacts what your ceiling is as a program. But there's no way, looking at this roster, looking at the coaching staff, looking at who's returning, just looking at what BYU's done in the last 2 seasons, that BYU should be anything lower than number 10 in the country. But I think that's something that the guys also have a chip on their shoulder, and they're eager to get on the field and show that the last 2 years weren't really a fluke, that they're not going to have a regression because there's no receivers on the team, that Jay Hill isn't the mastermind of the defense. Like every level too, even special teams is replacing their place kicker, the punter, the long snapper, the punt returner, the kick returner. Everybody's brand new. So I feel like all 3 phases of the game, it's full of guys who are eager to show something on the field to kind of prove the doubters wrong. And that's something that has me really excited for the season.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I feel like it's kind of this weird correlation with Kalani era teams where it's like the higher the expectations before the season, the worse the season goes, and vice versa, where you don't expect anything at BYU and they shock you. And I just feel like finding that happy medium of achieving what you're expected to do. I think part of finding that balance is feeling ripped off by a 14th ranking in the preseason poll. Like they should be a top 10 team. They've done nothing that would suggest that they're not a top 10 team in the past few years, especially with the talent that they're bringing back. And I just think too, like this is such a transformative season for BYU football. And you look at the opportunities on the schedule, like if you beat Utah and you have 4 straight against Utah and 2 of them are on the road and 3 of them are in the same conference, like that's a massive deal. Like that's a huge shift in the rivalry dynamic. You beat Notre Dame. Let's look for game days here for that game. Like I always think about the Mike Leach Texas Tech team that beat Texas in Lubbock and how that changed the way everybody talked and viewed Texas Tech. And I feel like for the Big 12, for BYU, like beating Notre Dame in that game would just go light years for changing the perception and the narrative and the brand of both BYU and the conference. And then Arizona week 2, like, that's going to be a tough test too right off the bat. And Kansas, like not necessarily an upset, but it kind of is an upset because BYU can't ever beat Kansas. Like they have all these.
I've been upset.
They have all these opportunities to pull off these big time wins, these kind of program altering, season defining, conference saving wins. Like beating Notre Dame is BYU's ticket to the conference, to the college football playoff. And that's the 2-ticket hope for the Big 12, right? Like in a perfect world, Tech and BYU meet in Arlington and it's winner goes to the playoff, loser goes to the playoff, and beating Notre Dame is a huge step in the right direction for that to happen. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is when you have all these opportunities on the schedule and these, you're going up against a huge potential number 1 team in the country in Notre Dame. You're going to Rice-Eccles where you never win. Obviously they won in 24, but at the same time, like that's a house of horrors historically for BYU. Having an incredible defense with all of this talent, all of this depth, all of these chess pieces like Nusi and Falatau and Ulave and Glasgow, like all these guys that have been there, done that, the veteran leadership, the veteran experience, just everything that this defense offers, like that is the defense that rolls out and gets those wins and raises banners, and like that's if BYU wants to beat Notre Dame, like that's on the defense at this point. And this is the defense that can do something like that. And I don't know, man, I'm ready to run through a brick wall right now. Let's go.
Let's do it. Before we wrap and get to our Cougar Archive game of the day, I need a season prediction from you guys in terms of record, and I need a hot take on the defense specifically.
I'll go. BYU's going to go 11-1 this year. And I only say 11-1 because going 12-0 is so hard. But I think 11-1 is still going to be enough to get to the Big 12 championship. My hope is that because BYU is starting in the top 15, that 11-1 would be high enough in the rankings for BYU to get into the college football playoff, regardless of win or loss in the Big 12 championship. But I think 11-1 is attainable. Like, especially with the 7 home games, that sets you up beautifully. So even if you drop a game to, Notre Dame, I think the sneaky tough games are at UCF and at TCU. I think those are going to be kind of tricky, but as long as BYU is able to handle those, like 11-1 should absolutely be on the table. For my hot take, man, let me think about that for a sec. Jackson, if you want to hit it with your season prediction.
I'll start with my hot take because I wrote 5 hot takes or bold predictions a few weeks ago for Deseret News, and one of them was that Nusi was going to lead the team in sacks Newsie's my guy. I'm putting. It's been Keaton Slovis. It's been Ryan Rico. It's been Tanner Wall. Nusi Taumapeo is Jackson Payne's my guy for the 2026 season. Really excited to see what he does. And yeah, I
give
think
me a number.
I'm going to say like 8.5, just because
too low.
I know it's too low, but I think BYU has so many other guys that are going to be sack happy as well that I feel like the wealth is going to be shared, and like the pressure is going to be there. The tackles for loss are going to be there. I just think, like he could go for 10 sacks. It wouldn't surprise me, but I just think 8.5, just considering, you got to add some Glasgow sacks. You got to add some for Olave, for Akana, for Tanavasa, for Kirkland, for Clegg, like there for Schoonover. Like there's all these sacks to go around. So I think 8.5 is at least a conservative estimate for trying to decide who will be the leader among just such a deep group. And I guess for the season prediction, like I'm torn between 10-2 and 11-1, just because I think Notre Dame, it feels like a loss. Like I want to believe in magic. Like BYU could totally win that game, but just like if we're chalking up just predictions off the top of our heads, like I got to go Notre Dame loss. And then just it would be so BYU to just drop a random game like they usually do. Last year they didn't, so maybe they've outgrown that under Kalani. But at the same time, like it's behavior versus nature. Like this is BYU's nature. They lose to Kansas. They lose to Coastal Carolina. Sorry to unearth old wounds, but like
yeah, this is fun.
Hey, they beat Wisconsin, Nate, in 2018.
Way to end on a huge bummer.
But that's what you know what? 11-1. I agree with Nate. They're going to lose.
There we go.
There we go.
Was that so hard?
12. The schedule is so favorable in the Big 12. They're going to have some tough battle. It's favorable, but also it's going to test them. Like Arizona's a test right away. Going to UCF is a test. Beating Kansas, which never happens, is a test.
That Arizona game, I think, is going to tell us everything we need to know. We'll get to I'll give my official season prediction next week, but I think that Arizona game is going to tell us everything we need to know. But spoiler alert, I think BYU is going to roll in that one. But anyway, Nate,
I think so too. My hot take, so BYU last year was number 10 in the nation in defensive touchdowns. They had 3. I think BYU is going to get 5 this year, 5+,
Woo!
Which is crazy because it's basically one every other game. But I think because the defensive line is going to be so much better, you're going to force quarterbacks to make bad decisions. Guys like Trey didn't house that touchdown against West Virginia. That pick he had, he got dragged down at the 2. I think plays like that, he'll be able to squeak across the goal line. I think there's going to be a lot more chaos, a lot more turnovers, because they were still number 14 in turnovers gained last year. They had 24, but it didn't feel like they were. It didn't feel like it was as many as it was in 2024. And it goes back to my point of I think this year's defense is going to be closer to that 2024 mark. And I think with that is going to come some defensive scores.
My hot take for the defense is I think they finished top 15 in success rate. And what success rate means, like I don't really love stats like, total yards per game, like yards per play is a decent one. Success rate is what tells you down to down, like is BYU allowing a successful play, meaning on third down, did they allow the third down to get converted? Last year, BYU, I think, was in the 30s in defensive success rate. I think this year they end up in the top 15. And again, what that means is not only are you going to limit big plays, consistently down to down, you are going to be beating your opponent as opposed to relying on the big play to help propel your defense. I think the last 2 years, BYU has really relied on the turnovers to keep teams out of the red zone, as well as, great red zone defense. I think this year they're going to be forcing 3 and outs left and right. I think that's where the difference is going to be, where you're going to be getting a lot more sacks. You're going to be getting teams off the field. And so maybe you don't even need to rely on turnovers as much. Jackson, to your point with the sacks thing, this is from my coworker, Justin Wood. For the first time since 2017, he's predicting that 2 players will have more than 5 sacks. That has not happened since 2017, and that makes me sad.
And of all the years to happen, why did it have to be that? Absolutely.
I know, it's so bad. Not to end on a bummer. We want to throw it to our Cougar Archive game of the week. Love Cougar Archive. They are doing a lot of really cool things online. It's become my go-to source for all BYU stats and history. They're also working on a query feature, which I'm really excited about as a data nerd, where you can query almost any type of play-by-play data that you want. Poor Cougar Stats has been bombarded by DMs from me asking crazy stats like how many times did Bear Bachmeier complete a pass inside the 5-yard line that wasn't followed by a passing touchdown? The answer to that question was 10. 10 times Bear Bachmeier threw a pass that ended inside the 5 that did not result in a passing touchdown on a later play. If Bear Bachmeier had 25 touchdowns instead of 15, I think we're all talking, the national people are talking about Bear a little bit differently, but I digress. Our game of the day is going to be yesterday was the 30th anniversary of BYU's win over Texas A&M. I choose this game, one, because I watched the entire thing yesterday, and man, what a throwback. 2 observations. Brent Musburger really loved the word dandy. And observation number 2, the band is still playing the exact same songs from 30 years ago. It was funny because I couldn't watch everything that was going on, but as I'm listening, I'm hearing all the same. I'm hearing the songs the band is playing. I'm like, oh yeah, this is nothing's changed. In that game, Steve Sarkisian threw for 536 yards, 75% completion percentage, had a run of 19 straight completions in that game, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. I also chose this because that 96 team was kind of built like this year's team in terms of tight ends and wide receivers. You had K.O.K. Louis and Kaipa McGuire, who combined for almost 300 yards receiving in that game at the wide receiver position. But that team was really built on the tight ends of Tuamili and Chad Lewis, who each caught a touchdown in that game as well. 30-year anniversary of the 96 season, man. There's some similarities there. I think this is going to be a special one just like that.
Bring back the throwbacks this year. Give me the royal version of the 96 throwbacks.
Please.
So great.
Please.
Is it a hot take to say? I have 3 hot takes about the 96 team. 1, those are the best uniforms BYU's ever worn. That's my number 1 take.
For sure.
2, that's the best team in BYU history. I think they're better than 84. I think they're better than 83. Any other team you throw up, I think, and that leads me to my 3rd pick. I think that 96 team beats 84 by 2 touchdowns. I just think that the secondary they had in 96 was so strong. The special teams, I mean, James Dye was probably going to get those 2 touchdowns on his own. I think that 96 team was like legitimately outstanding in every aspect. And it's not even close how much better they are than every other BYU team. I don't know if those are hot takes, but those are my 3 opinions that I'm going to pass off as facts.
The 84 national championship was a lifetime achievement award for BYU.
I think that was a reward for success from 1980 until 1984. So I think the 84 team was really good, but I think they were kind of rewarded for the stretch. I love that take, Jackson. I love it.
It's like Leonardo DiCaprio winning the Oscar for The Revenant. Like it's
I was literally about to make that exactly.
It was a great role. It was a great performance. It wasn't Titanic. It wasn't Inception. It wasn't these other movies that he's been in. Anyways, not to poo-poo the 1984 national championship. I'm with you, Jackson. I think 96 was awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to talk down on those teams. Like I think 83 was much better than 84 too. Like that team. I mean, that had Gordon Hudson and Steve Young. Come on, but in 96 too, there was just something special about 96. And maybe there's going to be something special about 2026, especially if they bring back the royal version of those uniforms, because that is the best uniform BYU's ever worn that didn't have tan on it. I'm just kidding.
All right. Last question before we close. What is the most amount of money you guys would pay for a high five from Cosmo?
That's such a good question. Not $3,200. I could tell you that.
I'm confident they're going to lop off a 0 from that number. I'm calling it now.
Man, they better.
Dude, the fact, like the Nate, are you going to be in the press box for games this year? I don't think I've asked you that yet.
TBD, probably not. I think I'll be going down still for post-game responsibilities, but I think I'm going to be with, in the stands.
Because the fact that we're going to have people, we're having our pregame meal in the press box, and there's going to be fans like roped off to the side, like watching us, like
paying their $800 for Tucanos.
Hey, BYU, make your money. Like I'm not going to knock anyone's hustle. But at the same time, it's extremely funny that the pregame meal for media is a unique experience to pay for and have like just man, well, it's great.
It's so good.
Some things, like Joe and I literally talked. We started this podcast talking about just like how great college sports is, and just how none of these things could exist anywhere else. And it's
So
just like the best example. Like people are going to spend thousands of dollars to eat taquitos in the press box
With you.
and all. Like come on. Like I hope if someone watching this pays for that and comes, I hope they come just plop right down next to me and just we can enjoy the moment together because I want to be part of that experience.
Jackson, can you sign my Cougar Illustrated?
Oh, I love it. All right, boys. Cougs by a billion.
Cougars by a billion.
Go Cougs.